So to do that, we have some 68 lighthouses, 10 light vessels, 540 navigation buoys around the coastline, 3 ships of our own, and we provide the UK's satellite navigation system. And we also inspect 10,000 other aids to navigation held by the independent port authorities. And we also examine and license deep sea pilots, and we're also nautical assessors to the Admiralty Court here in London. But also we are the UK's largest maritime endowment charity. And 2 gentlemen at the end there have just given me 20 quid each to bang the gong downstairs. Contributions would be great to receive, but if you want to ring the bell from the Royal Yacht Britannia, that will be slightly more expensive. But anyway, in our charity function, we have a charity spend every year of some £5 million to help the UK's needy and those of their dependents that are desperate for help. And I think it is a sad reflection in this so-called maritime nation that the mariner pretty much goes out of sight and out of mind and still needs charity from the likes of us when times are hard. That's enough of the serious stuff now, let's get on with the business. Now, last year, the world's largest passenger vessel, Harmony of the Seas, Royal Caribbean, anybody heard of it? Yes? Yep. She came here to the port of Southampton to begin her European showing to potential passengers. And she is enormous. 227,000 tons, 362 metres long, I don't know what that is in American, I have no idea, 66 metres beam, and when all berths are occupied, there are 8,800 people inside that ship. Now the word harmony and European seems to be a little way apart here at the moment, and I remembered of another cruise ship that was full of English, French, German and Italian passengers that was sinking very slowly. And the captain radioed for help, and he was told if the passengers jumped into sea, they would be picked up immediately. So he sent a young officer to give the passengers the instruction. 5 minutes later, the young passenger came back to the bridge, looking very disappointed. "What's wrong?" the captain asked. "The passengers refuse to jump into the sea, sir. They will just not listen," replied the young officer. So the captain went off to give the order himself, and he came back 5 minutes later looking very pleased with himself. "How did you do that, sir?" asked the young officer. "Well," said the captain, "I told the British it was traditional and the right thing to do. I told the French it was fashionable. I told the Germans it was an order, and I told the Italians it was forbidden." But Harmony of the Seas, what is in the ship's name? And just last year in this country, there was a research vessel built by the British government to go down and do work in the South Pole. And the British government thought they'd be clever and hold a vote nationally so that people could invent a name for that ship. The British public, in all its wisdom, came up with the name Boaty McBoatface. And quite naively, I think the owners were very silly asking the public to name their ship, probably assuming that the winner would be named after some great explorer, James Clark Ross, Ernest Shackleton, or Robert Falcon Scott, perhaps. It is true that eventually the famous naturalist Sir David Attenborough received just over 10,000 votes, and the explorer Henry Worsley some 15,000. And I'm pleased to say that common sense prevailed, and the RRS Sir David Attenborough had her keel laid at the shipyard in Liverpool in a ceremony just a few weeks ago. However, the British Antarctic Survey have named their state-of-the-art subsea vehicle Boaty McBoatface in recognition of the great British public's wisdom. Within the competition, the less conventional "It's Bloody Cold Here" came fourth, and in second place, boosted by celebrity culture, was somebody called Poppy May. I have no idea. But the company should have learned from Canada's and Vancouver's BC ferries. Their operators' higher fares prompted Facebookers to suggest when they had their new ships built, SS Spirit of the Wallet Sucker, SS should have been a bloody bridge. Unsupportingly, BC ferries chose the boring names Eagle, Orca and Raven for their new vessels. But surely no ship owner can match our very own Royal Navy for odd names. HMS, and I'm not even going to explain this, HMS Cockchafer, HMS Carcass, HMS Pansy, and HMS Spanker. Quite a few. But perhaps the oddest names of all are owned by a firm called Eaton Musk, and they have bestowed on their rocket landing drone ships names such as motor vessel Just Read the Instructions and motor vessel Of Course I Still Love You. Inelegant maybe, but just remember, here in London, the world's most famous sailing clipper ship, the Cutty Sark, down at Greenwich, is named after a skimpy nightgown worn by a seductive witch. Anyway, let me tell you a little story about one of my favourite ships that I sailed on, the Queen Elizabeth II. And this is on a visit to Manhattan in New York. Anybody here from New York? Yeah? Have you ever tried to park a ship there? That's not good. After a day at anchor off the Statue of Liberty, following a parade of sail to celebrate July the 4th, when we gave you America, did I say something funny? Anyway, we had an evening fireworks display and a sail-by from President Clinton, and we had to move up to our Manhattan berth for 7 o'clock the following morning. And as we moved up the river towards our pier, which is specially designed to fit us, the slip is exactly the same length of the ship, 300 metres, with a little over 2 ships' widths in between the piers. You must know the piers there. Yeah, the bottom of West 46th Street. The piers lie at right angles to the current, and the pier structure is the same height as the bridgeway, 35 metres, which I think is about 96 feet in your money. So as you line up to go inside the piers, you can't see anything until the bow of the ship, the first 80 metres, is inside, and the bridge where you're standing driving the ship from comes clear of the pier head. The pilot assured me the slip was empty, so we began the manoeuvre and stuck the bow inside the slip and started creeping ahead, lifting the stern up against the tide. And as the bridge came clear of the pier head and the first 80 metres of the ship was inside the slip, we were committed to going in. And I looked up the length of the downriver pier to see a Royal Navy ship, HMS Manchester, alongside, and a Japanese frigate tied up on the outside of her. Space was becoming a premium. So after some choice nautical phrases, we had no choice but to keep going into the slip. And by now, both the Navy ships had had their breakfast disturbed by the bulk of the Queen Elizabeth II looming over them and edging ever closer. Now, Queen Elizabeth II is not quite as big as Harmony of the Seas, but it's 90,000 tons of transatlantic liner, so it's pretty big. Now, sometimes if the tide is really strong, we lean on the bottom corner of the pier to lever ourselves in as we lift the sternum, and the Japanese warship could quickly see themselves becoming something that we were going to lean on. So the Japanese sailors started to run around the deck with little straw fenders, about the size of your granny's shopping basket, against 90,000 tons of Atlantic liner. What the hell, let's keep going. So of course the tide was really, really strong that day, and the only way to avoid crushing the Japanese was to push ahead as fast as we dared and hope that the stern, the back end of the ship, would come up in time. So we gave the engines full ahead, pushed her as quickly as we could to get into the dock space, and we, how shall I say, got away with just leaning on the Japanese ship for a few seconds before we lifted off. And of course, when we lifted off, the Japanese ship came out with us, and so pulled the Royal Navy ship HMS Manchester out as well. And they now sprang into action on the Manchester as their stern lines parted and her gangway fell into the dock. By now, the expertise of the United States Coast Guard had appeared on the quay, having been informed by somebody that the Queen Elizabeth II was wreaking havoc inside Pier 90. Having lifted off the Japanese, the next thing I had to do was get stopped and alongside in the slip before we did any more damage. And once tied up, and all our lovely passengers had packed their cameras away, I thought I'd better do the decent thing and pop over to both of the commanding officers and apologise for disturbing their breakfasts. So with some trepidation, I climbed the recovered gangway onto HMS Manchester, saluted the flag. The officer of the day said to me, "Aha, you must be off the Queen Elizabeth II. The officer and the commanding officers are waiting for you." I felt like a naughty schoolboy standing outside the headmaster's office as the officer of the day knocked on the CO's cabin and shouted with what seemed great glee, "Captain of the Queen Elizabeth II to see you, sir." What a relief though as I stepped into an outstretched hand of welcome with a greeting of, "Gin and tonic, old chap, you could probably use one." He then proceeded to tell me with some element of joy, I thought, that the Japanese ship was their senior training ship with their most senior admiral on board. Wished me well and sent me on my way. Now, as we all know, the Japanese are a pretty formal sort of a lot. And as I waited to go into the Japanese admiral's office, I had thoughts of a very stern officer proffering me a small dagger laid out on a white towel, telling me to take the decent way out of all of this and save face. So as the door opened, I stepped forward very nervously, and after formal introductions, he nodded to a seat and then said to me in perfect English, "Captain, it is indeed a great honour to be kissed by a queen." Now, before I get too carried away about being a captain on such a fine ship, here are the thoughts of a 10-year-old boy in his careers class at school. Why I want to be a ship's captain. I want to be a captain when I grow up because it's a funny job and easy to do. Captains don't need much school education. They just need to learn numbers so that they can read instruments, and I guess they should be able to read charts so that they don't get lost. Captains have to be brave so that they won't get scared if it's foggy and they can't see where they're going, or if the propeller falls off, they should stay calm so that they will know what to do. The salary captains make is another thing I like. They make more money than they can spend. This is because most people think that being a captain of a ship is dangerous, except for captains, because they know how easy it is. There isn't much I don't like, except girls. Girls like captains, and girls want to marry captains, so they always have to chase them away so that they don't bother you. I hope I don't get seasick, because I get car sick. And if I get seasick, I could not be a captain, and then I would have to go out to work. So there we are, a little flavour of my life at sea, and a little flavour of Trinity House in London. So I hope you enjoy your visit here tonight. I hope you've enjoyed your dinner, courtesy of this lady over here, who is